How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video of this switch stance tutorial series. In this one, I'm going to be covering the funnel and then the air funnel. So if that sounds like a bit of you, make sure to stick around and let's get into the video. Let's break down what a funnel actually is before we then attempt the rotation. So a funnel is a 540 rotation where we're rotating downwind from the back-winded position. You pop, you initiate the rotation, rotate 540, completing the transition by sailing away the opposite direction. For the funnel, guys, it's really important that you're able to go switch stance and duck the sail at speed. If you're not doing this, don't worry, I've got a whole video breaking that down. Click up here to watch that and then come back to this video. But if you are comfortable, it's time to learn how to funnel. Now, the funnel is a surprisingly easy move to learn once you understand the technique. So for that, we're going to go straight into the takeoff and what to do with the sail. Now, the funnel is 95% in the initiation and the takeoff of the move. It all comes down to the most important windsurfing freestyle theory, which is, of course, apparent wind. Now, you guys know from watching my videos before that the apparent wind shifts depending on your board speed. So the faster we're going, the straighter the apparent wind. The slower we're going, the more the apparent wind shifts towards that true wind. Now, this is important again for the funnel because we're throwing that sail up and towards the apparent wind. So the faster we're going, the further forward we can throw the sail. Actually, the slower we're going, the more we throw it towards the true wind, upwind further. This is much harder and will make sliding around the rest of the move much less fluid. So I would really recommend going in with as much speed as possible and throwing that sail as straight as possible towards the apparent wind. Again, I'm going to emphasize lifting that sail up, and that is something that's going to really help you when it comes to going for air funnels. A huge common mistake that I see throughout people learning to funnel is them throwing the sail across their body directly across the board. Now, this is going to do several things. It's going to power up the sail on the new side and make it hard to get that last 360 rotation after the initial 180. And it's also going to put your weight onto the heels of your board. Now, this is going to, again, lock the rail, stall any rotation that you have, and from there, it's going to be kind of like a gecko out of the rotation, which is going to be much harder to execute. So again, to emphasize, carry as much speed as possible and throw the sail directly at the apparent wind. And this will always be upwind of the nose of your board. Once you've initiated that sail, it's going into the apparent wind, you're lifting the sail up. The rest of the rotation becomes very smooth and natural. All you're doing is an upwind 360 sliding backwards. However, because you've taken so much speed and rotation from the initiation, this movement tends to happen really automatically. If you find yourself getting bogged down and a bit slow on that last rotation, it's probably because you haven't found the apparent wind or you haven't gone fast enough into the rotation initially. This is why the funnel is a great move, because despite not having a lot of power, as long as you've got board speed, you can still make this rotation count. A really key point while you're sliding around your funnel is to keep your weight on your toes over the center line as to not lock any rails so that the board slides fluidly around the rotation. Also, it's imperative that you keep your weight over your front leg at all times throughout the rotation. Again, the most volume is around the center of your board, so if your head and knee can be over that front foot, over the base plate of the board, it's only going to encourage you to float more, and then of course that means you're going to slide more around the rotation. Keeping that weight over your front leg, looking into the rotation, the end of the move is very similar to a lot of these other switch moves like your scopus and your punettas. You want to carve out, open up the sail and sail away in the new direction, having rotated 540. When you're first learning to funnel, I would really recommend going on a broad reach. So that's 45 degrees downwind. This will give you good speed and also mean that you've got less rotation to complete once you initiate the move. But again, remember to find that apparent wind. As you start to improve with your funnels and you become more consistent, try to start moving the angle of sail more across the wind. So you're just that 10 to 20 degrees downwind, and then you'll be ready to try air funnels. The key then to transitioning from a funnel into an air funnel comes down to a couple of things. The first thing, as I've just mentioned, is the angle of sail. You want to be taking off more across the wind. The more across the wind you are, the more power you can build in the sail, which is then going to translate to more height, which is going to give you that air rotation. Make sure to give yourself some time for this power to build up. You don't want to catch the sail and then immediately throw into the air funnel. You want to build up the power, store it, and then you're using that power to release and get the height for the air funnel. It's really important to emphasize that you throw that sail up as well as forward. That's how you're getting the height, is all from the sail. You're not popping the board at this point. Once you're then airborne, what you can do is tuck a little bit with your legs in order to get that board a little bit off the water, to clear the nose as you rotate so that you land fully round in the air. Bending your knees is going to give you more height, even if you don't jump higher than you have been on your funnels. For example, if I jump on the ground with straight legs and then I jump tucking my knees, my head actually goes the same height. In that respect, I've jumped the same height. However, one looks a lot bigger than the other because my feet are a lot higher off the ground. Once you're in the air and you've pushed that sail forwards, it's important to make sure to bring it back into that ducked position where it's more in front of you in order to control the power. Often people throw the sail forward and they leave it there, and that means you're going to land with the sail really powered up in front of you, and it's really hard then to control the power in the sail on the landing. Once you're in the air, pull that sail back in front of you to give yourself that little extra control. If the sail is already really far back and you still feel like you're over-rotating, push out with the backhand, and that will really stall the rotation, allowing you to land with the sail back in front of you once again. From here, once you land, take the impact, make sure you're still on your front foot, and you carve out like you would a regular funnel. Your first air funnels will likely still be funnels. That's fine, keep pushing. Make sure to keep that weight forward and throwing that sail into the apparent wind. You're just doing it with more power and more aggression. If you're struggling to get the height on your air funnels, maybe try them one-handed. What this will mean is that you can extend the sail further forward with your backhand, which is going to give you more height. But remember to pull it back for the landing again. It's important for the guys who are already cracking air funnels, that want to do air funnel funnels or maybe even air funnel burners. Bringing that sail back again into that duck position is what's going to allow you to then load up the sail for that second pop. The funnel is probably the least technical and easiest move out of all of these switch moves to start with. So I would really encourage you to learn this move early in your switch stance career. To round out then, my top tips are to go into the funnel with as much speed as possible. The faster you're going, the easier it will be to find the apparent wind. Again, find that apparent wind by keeping your weight forward on your front foot and extending the sail up and forwards. Keep your weight forwards throughout the entire rotation, looking into the turn as you go, and keeping that weight over the center line so you don't bog a rail. And finally, for those air funnels, make sure once you throw that sail up with all the power to bring that sail back down in front of you for the landings so that you can sail away cleanly. That's about it, guys, for the funnel and the air funnel. Thanks so much for watching the video, and I hope to see you in a future episode.